I am going to show you how to make hot chocolate at home with as little as 2 ingredients. Now, those 2 ingredients you likely already have, along with the tools that you need to make it. Super easy, really delicious, cafe quality in a matter of minutes. So the 2 ingredients are simple. We need chocolate and we need milk, or milk alternative, whatever you prefer there. And there's a certain ratio that I find works best to give you that creaminess, nice sweetness, and that classic hot chocolate flavor. Now there are extra ingredients you can add if you want, and I will detail that later. But let's get started with the tools you need to make a hot chocolate at home. So first things first, we need a heat source. For me, I have an induction burner. It sits here, we use it for all of our baking, and a pot, saucepan, whatever may work to hold your milk and your chocolate. Other than that, I have a whisk to keep it from burning and sticking on the bottom. I have a spatula. This is going to help me get every single drop out of my saucepan. Tablespoon to measure my chocolate. And if you have a measuring cup to measure your milk, that's perfect as well. So just quickly, for us at Soul Chocolate, we have 3 different types of chocolate or hot chocolate that we make ready to go off the shelf. Instructions on the back, and that's kind of what I'm going to detail here. The simple recipes that we use day to day in and out at our cafe and at home. So we have a classic. It is a dark or darker leaning hot chocolate at 60%. We also have peppermint and mayan. Peppermint being nice and minty. Mayan has a bit of heat to it, so we add in cinnamon, cayenne, nutmeg, touch of salt, a little bit of vanilla, and it just rounds that out quite nicely. But today I'm going to use our classic, which is just made up of 2 ingredients anyways. We have our cacao and our cane sugar. Super simple. If you don't have a hot chocolate mix, but you have chocolate at home, that'll do perfectly, especially if something that you already love is in the pantry, maybe a chocolate bar, there's not to finish. You will need to find a way to kind of shred it up. I do find it melts easier. We could always translate it into weight, but for today I'm going by volume, meaning I'm using my tablespoon measure, I'm using my cup measurement. So let's get started. Basically, got mine plugged in. I'm going to turn this on medium-high heat, and I'm going to add in my milk. So the ratio is rather simple. It's 1 cup of milk, 5 tablespoons of chocolate. Say you have a sweet tooth, you can use a sweeter chocolate. Say you love the dark stuff, use a darker chocolate, add some cocoa powder into it. That's what I love about this. Once you nail down that ratio, it's rather simple to replicate and then add your own little flair kind of as you go. My chocolate, I'm going to measure out my 5 tablespoons. Nothing crazy here. The difference between our hot chocolate and our chocolate bars, ingredient-wise, really nothing. You will see the texture is shredded. It's kind of finely ground. We run this through like an industrial shredder here just to break our chocolate from these huge clumps into something that melts really quickly. Especially in a cafe setting, I do find it rather important because time is typically of the essence when people are coming in for drinks, so we want to make it fast. This is it. Really simple. What I'm going to do now is keep whisking. The higher your temperature, the more you need to move everything around, especially with dairy and chocolate, because they will scald to the bottom, especially when you get closer to that right temperature. So I'm going to keep this moving here. Now, as I had mentioned, you can level up your hot chocolate even further. So the simplest that I can think of off the top of my head is instead of using milk, you can use maybe a split between whipping cream and milk. You can use a split between table cream and milk, giving it a bit more texture and richness to the beverage itself. We at our cafe, we always use grass-fed dairy. It's non-homogenized. It's around 4.5% to 5% fat anyways. So I do find there is a nice creaminess at hand without having to go crazy. But honestly, there's sometimes I have whipping cream in the fridge. I can't use it all up, and I'm gonna make a hot chocolate with it. The next one, again, really simple. And this serves a couple purposes. Number one is, well, I guess first off, it's salt. Here is a comically large salt mill that we use at our shop. Basically, by adding salt into your beverage, what's going to happen is it's going to increase body or mouthfeel. So you're going to get this creaminess that you wouldn't have just by adding in milk and chocolate. I find a lot of cafes, bakeries, anyone who makes their own hot chocolate in their shop, meaning they're blending ingredients, will typically add salt for that mouthfeel. It's just this crazy richness, but also if you've ever had chocolate that has a bit of acidity to it, a slight sourness, you can add salt to cut that. And in terms of quantity, a little pinch. Here I am. I'm just gonna do a little bit. I'm gonna dissolve that because you can always add more. When you get to a stage where it tastes like you just heavily salted something, there's no coming back from it. If I wanted to get a little more crazy and add a bit more life into it, maybe a touch of cayenne, a little bit of cinnamon. These add warmth to your hot chocolate. Again, if I'm to do this, it's a tiny pinch. Cayenne goes a long, long way. And again, you can always add more. Cinnamon for me is such a lovely spice. It's just such a gentle warming. There's something that, I don't know, must be nostalgic that brings me back to baking with my mom. It's quite lovely. So again, just a little pinch, get some in there, and you can always kind of tweak to your needs. Like I said, maybe you don't want any of those. You just want like a straight up chocolate. That is pretty much it. As you can see, it's well mixed. It's nice and frothy. It's also the fun part about using a whisk. It gets a little bit of foam on top. My hot chocolate's done. I'm going to turn off my induction. I'm going to pour it back into this bad boy. And lovely. This is perfect for a Canadian winter, and I'm sure, you know, south of Canada, wherever it gets cold, it doesn't really matter. But as a Canadian, there's something about hot chocolate, especially after a freezing cold day, that I just absolutely love. I guess my last point I want to make, if you find you've made it too chocolatey, add a bit more milk. If you want something more chocolatey, add a bit more chocolate. There is so much room to play here. Just make it to best suit you. Enjoy, guys. Cheers. Have a lovely cold winter.